It's episode 25. It's kind of a big deal. It's pretty cool. We've done 25 episodes. It's pretty sweet. I'm pretty proud of that. I don't know about you, man, but I'm pretty proud of that. Just think about that. We've devoted over 5 months. No, yeah, 5 months of our lives to do that. That's crazy. No, over 6 months. What am I saying? We've been doing this for 6 months every week. Crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And that's
I
the intro for this episode. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Thank you all for listening. It's episode 25. It's a huge deal. Our intros are going to start to get more organic because that's the plan. I don't know why, but I just came up with that plan. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about hiring help and some things that young entrepreneurs need to hear before they just waste money or waste years of time trying to do everything themselves. I think you and I both know that we can't do everything ourselves, even though sometimes we may want to control every single aspect of our business. That's pretty much impossible, especially if you want to scale, if you want to have a real quotes business, right? Instead of being a solopreneur, you need to hire help, and you need to hire help as soon as you possibly can. So leading into that, what are your thoughts on that? You have any first thoughts on hiring help and any crazy
to-
tips you want to just throw out there?
yeah, totally. Because I believe it's a cop out to say, I'm not hiring help, man. It's
Yeah.
a waste of money. I could do it myself, all this stuff. The sooner you recognize that you need to leverage and bring other people on to
Mm-hmm.
elevate your game to where you need to be, which is on the revenue producing side of business, the
Right.
sooner you're going to be successful. I thought about this when you mentioned the topic, and I think the cop out is to be like, no way, man. My time is free. I'm going to work 80 hours a week. I'm going to burn the candle at both ends. There's no way I'm bringing anybody else in because they don't know what I know. They're not
Right.
as good as me. And I'm just a egomaniac, selfish, greedy son of a gun.
Yep.
you know, and
It's true.
and
Yeah.
and I believe that's the easiest thing to do when getting into business, whether it's what we do reselling or even, your history, as a cook, as a chef. It's like you could start selling hot dogs on the corner and be like, this is great, and then but then you're like, my hot dogs are amazing. Everybody loves them. What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
do next?
Yeah.
Just be stubborn and say, that's it. Dude, there's a place up in Breckenridge. A lot of people that know, it's a crepe place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a crepe takes time. You can't just pre-make them and put them under a
Mm-hmm.
hot light. So the line to this crepe place, crepes a la carte, it's called, is long. So everybody drives down Main Street in Breckenridge. You're like, what an amazing place. What a great business model. Check that out. The line sometimes takes 30 to 40 minutes easily to get through. And people are waiting outside. So everybody looks at that and says, man, they must be raking it in.
Mm-hmm.
You and I, you're a cook. It's like a crepe. If you charge $8 to $9 for a crepe, I know your ingredients are going to cost a certain amount, but
Yeah.
they have a bottleneck. They only have 2 or 3 like little ovens or stoves to cook it on.
Mm-hmm.
But the perception is this place is like killing it. But
Yeah.
in reality, I doubt it. That's my
Well,
that's my thought.
listen, they probably have a pretty good margin there. I'm guaranteeing like their cost of goods are probably somewhere like in the dollar ballpark or so, maybe a few cents more. But kind of what you're saying is they have a bottleneck because what if the person running the crepe station calls in sick or they quit? Now you got to find someone that's good at making crepes on the fly, which is like it's difficult, right? Like making a crepe is not easy. If anyone's ever made a crepe listening to this, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So they have this bottleneck because they are so busy, but they're so dependent on these employees to do this job properly, right? Because if they're that busy, then they hire some kid that doesn't know how to make a crepe. It's just gonna like the wheels are gonna fall off the bus, right? Like things are gonna go spiral downward. So I don't know if it's the owners themselves making these crepes because they are crepe specialty experts. Who knows? Hopefully it's not because again, we talk about working on your business and not working in your business.
Right.
It's two different attitudes. I've mentioned it before on the show where when I worked at Cisco Foods and we would go into restaurants to try to talk to prospective customers if we saw the owner just like covered in sweat, covered in grease, just like behind the line with everyone just in the trenches, that typically was a bad sign about that business's revenue, right? If the owner is so deep into the restaurant to where he can't step out from the kitchen and things don't go okay when he's gone, there's a big, big issue there in that restaurant, either financially or with the staff, or there could be other things. But it's a huge, huge issue, typically financially.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, restaurants are one of the hardest businesses to be in. The margins are razor thin. So a lot of owners can never step away, unfortunately, unless they get to that next threshold of hiring the proper staff, working on marketing, working on bringing new customers in, like working on all these things that you cannot work on if you're in the trenches. So maybe they want to be in the trenches. Maybe there's someone like me and they want to open up a restaurant because they love to cook and they want to serve people. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as in the background you have someone working on your business, working on business development, like expanding things, right? So that's where there's like this big disconnect with a lot of people is they think they need to do everything themselves, right? They think they need to become an expert at podcasting, at social media, at graphic design, at accounting, right? Like, dude, you do not have to be an accountant to be a business owner. You don't have to be a graphic designer to be a business owner. You don't have to be any of these things. But people, for some reason, they're jaded into thinking that they need to be, but that's poverty mindset in the beginning, right? Like every entrepreneur is scared. Every entrepreneur doesn't want to share their ideas. They don't have enough income coming in
Yeah.
to hire all these people. So they just say, okay, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to be the best one. I know what's best for my business. When that's not the case, right? Having an outsider's point of view, looking into your business may be the single best thing you've ever done for your income. So,
Yep. Yeah. And the word that jumped out was inefficiencies. You're inefficient if you think you're going to do it all.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong. You can teach yourself, but time is money. And
right.
the time it takes to teach yourself how to learn to do a website, how to learn how to do other things like that, or video content and stuff, that's time is money. So, and that's the thing when you're a business owner, and we're speaking to those listeners right now that are a business owner. They have a little side hustle, whatever it is. There comes a point where it's like, do I really? I don't think it makes much sense for me to learn this, and it's okay to say to punt, to just say I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to punt to somebody that knows this, outsource to a consultant to come in and nail it down. Now the thing is, it's like, yeah, you may have to pay a couple $100, $1,000 or whatever, but your time saved is money, and time is money. So I always go back to these business owners, whether it be the cook and the owner of the restaurant behind flipping burgers, like, hey, I have to do this because I can't afford to pay somebody $200 today, 7 days a week. So, but if their time is better spent working the dining room,
Mm-hmm.
networking, going on wherever. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what local restaurant owners would do, but if they can make more bang for their buck by going out and be on the revenue producing side of the business, then they should.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a luxury. But it's also a commitment and an investment in yourself.
Right.
What you gain from that, hopefully, is financial, but it's also freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad too now that you mention it. When I go into these restaurants and I see the owners hustling, I know they're making a living. I don't know. That's up to them. But do
Mm-hmm.
they ever get freedom? Do they ever get time off? I doubt it.
Most don't. Most don't, dude. Like especially those guys that are uh that their restaurants are dependent on them. They don't get a break, because I'm gonna tell you a big secret. Most restaurant staff is just untrained, like
Yeah.
short order cooks. It's not like people like me that highly care about food and care about customer safety. Like I'm probably gonna ruin restaurants for everyone on this podcast, but most people working in kitchens don't care about your sanitary concerns. Like they're dropping stuff on the floor. You're not hiring like class A individuals usually. So trusting these people with your baby, like, right, if this is your restaurant, it's your only source of income, just letting go as a chef or as a restaurateur to trust these people is a huge liability in a sense, right? Because like if you're not there watching them, like who knows what these people are doing? Like I've seen some crazy stuff in restaurants, Dave. Like I'm not even going to go into it right now, but like
Mhm.
I've seen some crazy, crazy stuff. Um, Having the power to trust your employees that they have your best interest in mind
Right.
is kind of like the ultimate freedom, right? Like having people that love you, love your business, they're part of the team, they're they preach your ethos, they do all these things. That's so hard to find, especially in restaurants. Like we're using that as a kind of the picking point, but it kind of translates into every business, right? Like with your reselling business, finding people that you trust that are gonna like look over every single detail of this item so then they don't cost you more money in the long run, right? Like when it comes to like testing things or making sure there's no stains on clothes or whatever it may be. That's hard to find, right? Someone as thorough as you may be, right? So
Hmm.
outsourcing is amazing, hiring help is amazing, but let's just put like a little asterisk there. Is like you need to hire the right help, because I've hired plenty of people digitally, and we'll get into that too. Like you and I are very different when it comes to hiring help. I hire freelancers, you have actual employees and systems and processes in place. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
You need to hire the right people. One of the worst business decisions I ever made was paying a guy $3,000 to develop something. And he was the worst person I've ever hired in my life. He was just an awful human being. And it's not always like these glory stories. There's people that are going to rip
Yes.
you off. There's people that aren't going to care about your business whatsoever, and they just want a quick paycheck. So maybe we can get into that, like the differences between how
Hmm.
our realities are with our like employees, right?
Yeah.
Because I have technically two people that work for me like part time, and you have more than that that
Yeah.
actually work full time. So
Mhm.
if you want to talk about your side of things, maybe start with when
Yeah.
you thought was the right time to hire, right? Like years ago.
Yeah. I think the two words that popped out were hiring someone to do tasks
Mm,
versus someone to do like a project or
yeah.
and and when you hire somebody to do tasks, you know immediately if this will go okay, just
Mm-hmm.
based on the quality of work, if they meet the deadlines, and if they fit in with
Right.
the other personalities and the interpersonal stuff within a business. That's easy. I believe that's easy. Now, hiring somebody, how do you determine that just from an interview if they're going to be a great fit? You don't. I mean, that's why you
Mm-hmm.
probably have to check references and all that. But then we go on to like the projects. Like if you have the type of business where you have to hire a consultant to come in and you know it's going to be like a 2 month period before you see traction or results, that could be dangerous. That could be really frustrating and demoralizing if a
Mm-hmm.
month into a project, quote unquote project, you don't see anything because that just creates more anxiety as a business owner because you're thinking just what you said. This person is ripping me off. They're wasting my time. They're unqualified, but you're frustrated because you ultimately it came back on to you. You made the wrong
Mm-hmm.
decision. You brought the wrong person in, and your communication to that person probably broke down in terms of what you needed and
Mm-hmm.
how you're measuring their success. So,
Yeah.
so you may have not have had employees officially, but you've had VAs, virtual assistants, and also consultants. Share
Mm-hmm.
your story.
Yeah, I started hiring people with the eBay business. I hated doing spreadsheets every day. I hated doing listings. So those were the first things I outsourced. I used Upwork.com, which if you guys aren't familiar, it's like Fiverr. Pretty much it's just like this hub of virtual people all around the world. They might be in Bangladesh, they might be in Pakistan, they might be right down the road in Utah. It's all across the world, which is amazing because you can get some really, really cheap qualified help. Like, I mean, I'm talking cheap. Like, you can hire people for like $2 to $3 an hour. It's kind of crazy, compared to American standards. Um, so my guy Loretto, I pay him $5 an hour, and he was doing my spreadsheets. No, sorry, he was doing my listings. I don't have him do them anymore, just because things have changed in the process. But he still updates my spreadsheets. Like, honestly, I haven't even looked at my eBay spreadsheet in probably like 3 or 4 months. I have no idea what like my profit and losses. Like that might sound really bad, but it's there. Like I'm just not doing it anymore, right? Like he's just tracking everything, which is great. Like I don't even have to talk to him about it anymore. He just does it. Like there's no conversation, he just maintains it all for me. So at the end of the year I have a spreadsheet done for me, right? Um, then after that, like when I started taking like content creation seriously, when I started like helping other businesses with this stuff, I immediately like looked for a graphic designer. Now I have this guy on my team, and again, super super cheap. I pay this guy $3 per graphic, which is like, I mean, insane. Like if I were to hire an American for that, I'd be paying $150, 200, 300, $400 for a graphic. Like just something stupid. It's the the quality you can get from overseas employees, as long as you find the right one. Let's put an asterisk there again. As long as you find the right person that has a decent understanding of the American language and understands your vision and your ideas and all these things, then you'll have good success. But kind of how you were saying is, if someone doesn't understand what your vision or what your goal or what your end result is with a project, you're going to have a hard time, and you can't change someone to make them different than what they are. And I experienced this before when I was having like logos and like graphics designed. I'm like, oh, this guy's style is way different than what I want, but he's really good. So I hired him. And I'm like, hey, do this, but in this style that I want. And he totally failed because I was trying to make him something that he wasn't.
Oh,
I was
okay.
taking his skill and adapting it, thinking like he can see my vision when his style was totally different, right? It's like going
Interesting.
from punk rock to like
Yeah.
classical music, right? Like you can't do that. You can't expect people to be able to morph into something
Right.
that isn't in their head already. But if I were to hire that same person for that same kind of stylistic element,
Yep.
they would probably knock it out the park. There would be no discussion because that's what they live and they what they breathe. So
Hmm.
you can train employees, you can train virtual assistants up to a certain point, but you can never change someone's artistic direction or their creativity. You can't change these things about people, right?
And me not being an artist when it comes to that, I would say, come on, man, just click a button, change the font, change the
Right.
graphics.
Yeah.
Come on, man,
Right.
it's out there. I've
Right.
seen it on the internet. Come on, find it,
Exactly.
replicate it. Very interesting. I
It
never.
doesn't work like that.
So in other words, so look at someone's portfolio. That's
Yeah.
what they call it. Hey, what do you do? So if you
Hmm.
see a pattern of someone's font or color scheme or
Yeah.
whatever, that's who they are. Maybe they're
Yeah.
very uh, geometric in their
Hmm.
artistry. That sounds so official. And you're like, no, I wanted something more softer. They may
Yeah.
not have it, so it's
They may
okay.
not.
So yeah, very well, very interesting to keep in mind, especially when hiring the consultants. Just say, can I take a look?
Yeah.
You and I, we looked for a voiceover people. It's like you're not going to hire somebody with the high pitched voice to do a deep thing. You can't change that. So
Yeah.
you have to go search for what you need. Which
Exactly.
yeah, it still takes time, even though they're inexpensive. It still takes time and to narrow it and filter it down.
Yeah. Listen, being cheap is not the best thing that you want to go after.
Mm,
You don't want to hire someone because they're $1 an hour. You want to hire someone that's $1 an hour that's still good at their job and they're efficient and they understand and there's no language barrier. So that's why like I'm so grateful to have Loretto and this other guy on my team, is because they actually speak good English. They're proficient in what they do. I've never had any issues with either of them. So it's like I got really lucky. You don't really get that lucky unless you burn through money and you hire random people that don't do good jobs. Like Dave, I must have hired at least 20 people now on Fiverr, and then
wow.
another like 5 people on Upwork, just like for random projects, this and that. Like I've spent upwards to $3,000 hiring freelancers. I've given Loretto well over a couple grand over, past
Yeah,
year or so, just off doing
sure.
spreadsheets and listings. So like I've burned through money trying to find good people, and that's okay. That's
Mhm.
totally fine. You're not gonna, knock it out of the ballpark right away, but hiring help is critical. Hire like I'm decent enough at like doing graphics and making like quick little templates here and there, but I'm not a graphic designer. It's not what I want to focus my energy on. I'd rather just have
Right.
someone do it for me while we're doing this podcast. I have him working on a project right now. So it's like either I can dedicate 3 hours to do this graphic design project, or I can do 10 other things in that 3 hour span while someone else does something for me.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
and also it comes down to your mental health as well.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do everything, you're going to burn out. You're
Yeah.
going to fall short. You're going to be stubborn. You're going to say, "I could do it better than that person," and all this. That's the hardest thing. I think people that have control issues will always find something in another person's work that they said I would have done it differently,
Yeah.
and that's an internal issue. You definitely have to introspective type of deal. Like
Mhm.
maybe you aren't an entrepreneur, maybe
Yeah.
you are that solopreneur, as we always talk about, where you have to do it all. But be prepared to get burnt out. Be prepared to be overworked. Be
Mhm.
prepared not to have the freedom that a true business owner that has staff and people doing it,
Mhm.
things for them can do.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it, developing processes and hiring people to do tasks that you don't want to do is great. And like that guy that you're just mentioning is like, maybe he wants perfection, but maybe perfection isn't the right answer in this situation. Maybe it's just getting something out there and then refining it and then doing it again and just getting it again, rather than like being nitpicky and being like, "Oh, I don't really like that shade of purple. Can we try a different shade of
Yeah.
purple?" It's like, did anything really get accomplished during that?
No.
It's like, well, just
No.
put something out there. Let's get it done. That's why, again, being realistic, knowing what your weaknesses are. Maybe you're colorblind, right? So why are you picking the shade of purple, right? So it's just being realistic. It's understanding where your business is at to where you can afford to actually hire people, right? Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying give up all your profits to hire people right away. Most entrepreneurs can't do that within the first year or even several years. Most of
Yeah.
us are still struggling in that period. But if you can relinquish responsibilities in that first year, I almost promise you that you'll be able to scale your business 10 times faster. Now,
Yeah.
again, 10 times is an arbitrary number, but I do highly believe in that. I do think that businesses would do better if the actual entrepreneur in them would be able to step away and be the visionary and see the direction that they need to go in, rather than being stuck in handling spreadsheets. You don't create beautiful businesses in the weeds of updating spreadsheets. It doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah. And the sooner people do that, many people say, I want to implement this earlier in the game than
Hmm.
later.
Right.
Because when you bring on help, no matter what business you're in, the sooner you bring in the help, the faster you get out of the weeds.
Yep.
Um, as opposed to, I'm going to wait until the very last minute to bring
Hmm.
somebody in, and then you run the risk of it not working and major problems. So the sooner you could just tighten the belt and say, I'm
Hmm.
gonna get somebody in to elevate me to another level,
Right.
and see where it goes. Business
Well,
is crazy, man.
I
Business
want to
is
say some
hard.
I want to say something on that note because I just thought of it. If you wait too long to hire people, say like you've been in business for 10 years and it's always been you, you're going to have a high chance of being like, no, this is how we do things here. Instead of, if you're bringing people on within 6 months or a year, it could be more of a collaborative thing. Be like, how do you think we could do these things here? Right. Instead of like, oh no, I've been in business for 10 years. I know exactly what's right for my business. I'm like, I know everything, right? You're going to follow the rules. It's my way or the highway. We've done this like this for 10 years. Nothing is changing here. That is such a bad thing for business. I don't care if you've been in business for 5, 10, 20 years. Things are always changing no matter what, whether you want them to change or whether you don't want them to change. There could be outside influences that are changing to where your business isn't relative anymore, right? Like think
Right.
about media, think about like cassette tapes. If companies didn't adapt from cassette tapes to CDs, those companies were out of business because outside influences were changing their business even if they didn't want it to. So if they had employees that we're seeing these vision or like these future aspects of
True.
like CDs coming up. Maybe they could be like, hey, Mr. Owner, we really think the business is shifting into CDs. Let's start adapting now. So I think that's a big thing that a lot of business owners run into. They think that just because they started this business 20 years ago, they
Mm-hmm.
still know what is best for that business. You know, and
Mm,
we've seen a clear divide in the past, like let's say 10 years, when social media has really taken over. Those owners that didn't adapt to social media, they're failing. Those businesses are failing. Like there's still businesses that don't have websites. It's crazy. Like how do you not have a website? How are you not on Google Maps? How do you not have some sort of social media presence? You know, you can it makes me so sad, but it's like, well, dude, you've had so long to adapt and you haven't. So it's on you if your business crumbles at this point because no one can find you, because no one uses the freaking yellow pages anymore, right?
So when is it dangerous to bring in too many people with too many opinions where you
Yeah,
just you don't have a true leader forging ahead and you just have a bunch of analysis paralysis, everybody with an opinion.
right.
Uh you could, so there's a balance. So
There is.
maybe you bring one person on, then you bring another person to kind of check that person
Mm-hmm.
and play, almost good cop bad cop. It's like, well, as opposed to, like, that's the thing, like, as a couple, Lori and I are different people, and not to talk about us, but sometimes we have a stalemate, so we need a third party opinion, whether that's you or someone else. It doesn't matter, but that third person, that third party, uh, can get you over the hump,
Right.
can get you to a new level where it's like, I'm glad we got past that, because looking back, we would have been spinning our wheels, and that's not good. So
No.
I would say if anything, maybe as a business owner, if you're a sole person, obviously you make all the shots. But if you're in a partnership with one other person, I would highly recommend bringing a third party on just to
Mm-hmm.
work in your business and to get their advice, to get their input, because their best interest is for you to do well as well. They're not just
Yeah.
here and gone within a month just to collect a grand as a consultant.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you may be stuck in your own little bubble. We see this all the time with like politics and like you know, all these issues currently that we have on social media is like people get stuck in this bubble and all they see is this side or this
Right.
side
Yeah.
and they get confirmation bias, right? Like they think that they're so right because everyone else is saying these same things in their tiny tiny little bubble.
So
You
true.
know, that's the same thing in business. You think that you're doing so great, right? Because it's my business. I started, I bootstrapped it. Like, well, dude, maybe you're leaving money on the table here. Maybe your sales funnel sucks. Maybe you could be generating 10 times more conversions if you just adapt and listen to someone else who is an expert in sales funnels, right? Like your business could change overnight if you do those things. But some people just they don't want to do that. They're like, no, no, like I'm good. Like, you know, like things are good. We make good money. Well, it's like,
Yeah.
do you want to make good money or do you want to make great money? It's I don't know, man. There's
It,
a lot of different ways that you could spin it. Kind of how you were saying is
yeah.
like having too many cooks in the kitchen. That might be a problem too. I'm not advising anyone to do that. I'm saying find at least one or two people that really understand your business, that
Yep.
care, and
Yep.
give them a piece of the pie so that they're invested, right?
Hmm.
That's the big thing. Don't make people feel like employees. I've talked about it before. Like I like feeling like a partner. If I feel like an employee, I'm gonna slack off. I'm not gonna care, right? But if I'm partnering with someone and I could see this future vision and be like, okay, we're all gonna grow together. Maybe I'll grow in a different way that you grow, but we're all
Yeah.
on this ladder together rather than you just winning and me just still making $10 an hour.
It's
That
horrible.
doesn't do anything for anyone. That's the
That's
worst
bad. That's
like
bad.
relationship ever, man.
I Yeah. And then you run into this. Well, if you bring somebody on and they elevate your business, there could be some resentment or animosity, like, hey man, I helped you out here or there. Like,
Yeah.
in the restaurant business, if you said, if there's somebody want to have a pizza place in Oklahoma,
Hmm.
and they're not within a metropolitan area, and you're like, no man, you need to be downtown near the offices, get the lunch, and you brought insight,
Hmm.
and they're like, and they don't throw you a bone, or so to speak, then that's sad. I mean, that saddens me, because
Yeah.
that's human. That, unfortunately, that's human nature, and greed that always creeps in, and that's business. But
Listen, you get way
come on,
further in business if you help people along the way. I don't care if
oh
anyone
yeah,
disagrees with me. The more people you can help, the more people will want to help you. So that's why like I give out information for free. I teach people how to be resellers for free. Like you don't have to give me 19.99 to get my free course. Watch me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. I give out tips all the time because I truly want to help people. I'm not just trying to make 19.99. Like make it $20 is not going to change my life. But
yeah,
if I can change your life in any sort of way to where maybe you have more time with your kids, maybe you quit that job you hate, or maybe you just start a sales or a savings account because of the information I was able to teach you for free about reselling or side hustles or whatever it may be, like that's good enough for me. I don't necessarily need to profit off of it right now. Maybe later you'll still remember me and
mm,
our paths will cross and you'll give me a kickback then. Maybe you'll give me a shout out on your page. Maybe, like for this podcast, there's no ads, there's nothing here. We don't ask you guys for anything. If you want to share this podcast, if it helped you in any sort of way, like that would be an amazing kickback, right? Like
mhm.
you don't need to make money on every single transaction. And we've talked about that
Right,
before. Not
very true.
everything is about money. Some
Yep.
things are bigger picture. Some things are just an investment of time for future prospects to turn into something bigger, right?
I agree. I agree. I mean, you have to have some goodwill, no
Yeah.
pun intended, goodwill in what you do.
Yeah.
And I posted something on um, Instagram on our story the other day. I said it starts with an idea to help others.
Yeah.
So this podcast is an idea to help others that want to chime in, learn
Yeah.
about life, business, and personal development. Do we have an agenda? No. I mean, we're
Mm-mm.
sharing what we have learned, our passion, our insight, and our dreams with others. And if
Yeah.
that impacts one person, cool. If we ever find out about this person, amazing. If we don't,
Yeah.
we don't care. It's just
Yeah.
it's odd, and we're not doing it also for the glory. Like, look at us, we're amazing. We're doing it
Yeah.
because we believe in good energy, positive energy, influencing people if they want. Well, you don't like the word influence, but
I hate it.
impacting people in a good way.
Yeah.
And if people take a tidbit from Sebastian, a tidbit from Dave, and they're like, you know what, that resonates. That resonates. That's
Hmm.
kind of cool. Let me, even if it makes 1 hour of their day better. That's
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 it,
neat.
man. Yep.
Um, yeah. And so back to the business thing, we talk about uh, outsourcing or getting help. Many of us have passive income, passive side hustles, whatever. This is what we talk about all the time. We talk about starting something that you have passion with, but
Hmm.
don't get consumed with it and make it a job. If you make it a
Right.
job, it's a job. It's boring. But
Yeah.
think about people that own like many apartment complexes or condos, and they rent
Hmm.
them out. Now, as the owner slash landlord, they could go in and they could do all the handyman special paint and fix. But there comes a point where it's like, are you going to do that for 5 to 10 properties? You just created
Yeah.
yourself a job. Like, look at those people as well. I don't know how I got on that little rant, but that's just like a passive business that a business person was smart, they would be outsourcing that to a true handyman to
Yep.
do all the work. And yeah, their
Yeah.
profits may take a little bit of a hit. Maybe they lose a couple percentage points on take home, but
Hmm.
it's worth it because their time is worth way more than that. And we all know
Exactly.
that our time on earth is limited to 83.5 years per individual,
That's sad.
less for men, more for women.
Jeez, I gotta do some things then. Wow,
You better,
okay, I
you
gotta
better,
catch up. I'm almost 30, dude. I turned 30 in like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. It's crazy.
all right.
Um, no, dude, it's so true. Like, I don't care who is listening to this right now. I do not care if you make cat knitting supplies out of your garage. I don't care if you're a reseller. I don't care if you're a seven-figure entrepreneur or solopreneur with a creative side hustle. Every single person that is making money can hire someone to do some part of their business to buy their freedom back. And that's kind of what we talk about, is just
Yep.
buying your freedom back. It's not all about profit at the end of the
Right.
day. You can be, I mean, like, look at these, like, hotshot New York City, like, big wig suit wearing guys. Those guys make millions of dollars a year at these hedge funds, but they're miserable. They're working 100 hours a week. They're just the lowest lives on earth because they're so sad and they're depressed and they hate their lives. But if you took that guy and, like, maybe you hired an assistant, maybe you trained like a junior hedge fund manager or something under him. Now this guy, all he does is like make the big calls. Now his life is just improved. Maybe he, falls back in love with his wife and he stops cheating on her, and, like, maybe he's actually present with his kids. All of these things can happen if you do find people to help you with your business. Business is not like this individual compartmentalized thing. It needs to expand. It
Right.
needs to, like, collaborate. You need to work with others. Like, can I do a podcast by myself? You bet your ass. I might even start a podcast by myself just so I can talk crap. But doing this with you makes it 10 times easier because we can go back and forth, right? It's not
Oh,
just
yeah.
me sitting here in front of the microphone like, hey guys, so like today I feel sad. No, it's like we're having a conversation. Yeah, hey guys. Like, this is fun. It's more interactive, right? It gets the ideas turning, and maybe if I was
Yeah.
doing this myself, I could still speak on this topic, but the things that you bring up, they add to the conversation. They hopefully add
Mm.
value to our listeners. And again, if they add value, make sure you, like, give us a rating on iTunes. But all of these things are so important, and we're collaborating right now on this, even
Yeah.
though it's natural. It's not like you're not winning, I'm not winning. We're just doing this together because that's what we decided to do.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do in business. You need to talk to people in your industry. You need to talk to people outside of your industry. So
I agree. You
yeah,
stop being paranoid, stop being
yes,
selfish and greedy, and just say, don't. Let me take that back. Instead of me saying don't, let me rephrase this as explore working with others,
yeah,
explore getting other people's ideas, enhance your life by listening to others, because if you don't like what they say, it's okay. Find
yep.
somebody else.
Doesn't
And if
matter.
and if you find somebody genuinely that you believe could help you, you hold on to them.
Yep.
Now, if you have a business and you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of yes men, yes
Mm-hmm.
people, or rah rah, where echo chamber, this is amazing, and
Yep.
no critical feedback, you may want to reconsider that as well. As
That's
Cheyenne pops in the
as she
background.
pops in the background.
Yeah.
No,
And
I
yeah.
agree. You cannot have yes men around you. Yes men are the downfall of any single business. If you do not have someone that is honest with you and willing to be brutally honest, and that's one skill that I really have. I do not care who you are. If something you're doing sucks or is wrong or we could make it better, I will tell you right away, and I will not beat around the bush. A lot of people don't like that about me, but a lot of business people love that about me because they're like, oh, everyone around me is just like telling me this is
Mhm.
great and all this thing. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
like, you suck. We need to do better. Let's get better right now and not wait. That's something that a lot of people, they want these yes men around them for some reason. They want this constant, like, affirmation, and that's like the key to like failure when it comes to business, man. Like, if you just have people boosting your ego up all the time, you are not going to do very well. You need people to be like, hey dude, like, what you did just sucked. Like, what you said on that podcast, like, was not cool. Like, what you, like, this design sucks. This doesn't even look like our
Right.
company.
Right.
All those things are critical for growth, and
Yeah.
people try to hide from those things. They don't want critique. They don't want feedback. They don't want anything. But if you look at the biggest names in the world, they all take critique. They all take feedback from their staff. They're not just like trying to be like these, like, I don't know, rulers or kings or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but why are there yes men out there? It's mainly because
Men are weak.
everyone's a well,
Sorry. Sorry.
yes, yeah, but why are there yes women out there?
I don't know.
Why are there yes people out there? It's because they're afraid to get their wallet impacted if they
Yeah,
say the wrong thing, because the
true.
person on the other side is their superior, whether you want to call it that or
Yep.
not, even though it shouldn't be looked like that. But we've been all groomed as this hierarchy of my supervisor has his supervisor, and nobody wants to be like, you know what, you're a troublemaker, get out of here, which
Yeah.
easily happens because everyone's looking to preserve themselves. And I spent 20 years in that world, and I saw it all the time. The people that did speak from their heart or whatever didn't really get too far. They were appreciated, but they were used because
Right.
thanks for that input. You know what? You're too risky. I'm going to leave you down here when I go off moving up the ladder. Like people don't cling on to those type of people. Because that's
Yeah.
why corporations hire these consultants that come in from the outside,
Right.
and they get paid $10,000 a week because these
Right.
consultants don't care, and they tell
Right.
them, Walter, that's not how you want to run your department. You're
Yep.
demeaning to this person and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, and they say yes. Those people turn into yes men to the consultants because the consultants have the power now, because they could go to their bosses and be like, this is this guy's problem. I've seen
True.
that too.
It's
that was
true.
fun.
Just like one personal note on that, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. But I have another client with like marketing and all this stuff. I'm not going to get too nitty gritty into the details. Pretty much, they're a world famous person, high wealth, all these things, huge social media following. And they have all these different assets set up. And when I talk about assets, it's multiple businesses, right? They have multiple income streams coming from every single direction. I just started working with them, and I walked in, and one of the first things I told them was like one of their assets was complete garbage. Like I literally said, like, no, I have nothing nice to say about this. Like not one thing. I literally said that verbatim. And he's like, man, you don't understand how much I appreciate you saying that. Right? It's like being able to be like just almost cold and callous with someone, no matter at what level they are. Like this guy has way more money than me. He has way more experience than me, like with making money online, like using his presence and all that stuff. But he was failing in this regard. He was totally failing in one of his assets, and they weren't converting well. Like it's just so many improvements could have been made. And I immediately saw that. So I latched on. I'm like, hey man, like this is garbage. And guess what? His team improved it right away. Right? Like the next few days, it was changed. And now it's different. And now hopefully it's going to convert better. And it's all those things. But all that happened, and hopefully he's going to make more money because I had the courage to be like, hey man, like this sucks. I don't care who you are. Like you're doing this wrong. You didn't hire me just to be nice to you or to like showboat you. Like I don't care that you're famous. I don't care that you're rich. It's like you're doing this wrong. Let's fix it right now. And I think that went so well because a lot of people around him probably are yes men. They see they're like,
Yeah.
oh, he's famous. Like, oh, we got to like suck up to him because that's what he wants. He wants us to stroke his ego. When typically,
Sure.
like most famous or rich people, they just want you to be completely honest with them. They do not want you to beat around the bush with anything. Just get to the point. If something's not good, say it. That's it. That's one like lesson I learned in life is just be brutally honest, and it'll probably get you really far. Maybe not in the corporate setting. So if you're in corporate, don't listen to that.
In corporate, you're screwed. I mean,
Yeah, lie about everything.
yeah, you just yes everybody. That's what
Yep.
that's why it's so inefficient. We spoke about that
Yes.
before. But back to what you were just saying about, you know, that situation you were just talking about. Let's just call that company A, and then like you have company B over here, different type of thing. I do believe company B is probably experiencing the same thing as company A, which you just mentioned, is going through. But I believe it's refreshing and probably in their best interest to invest in, call it like, I always put a dollar figure on everything, like 10 grand a year, to have a professional outsider come in, maybe not do the work, but just advise.
Yeah, just
So
look.
just
look at
look,
things.
advise, get a second opinion. And this way it's like the whole good cop, bad cop thing. Like the owner of company A in your situation doesn't have to be like being, scolding or whatever you want to call it. They could be like, hey, so consulting company came in and said we should be doing this. And do you know how to do it? Yes or no? Probably they're going to say, I could learn. Be like, okay, well, we don't have the time for you to learn. So, like that's difficult. So that company A person is the CEO of their whole organization. Very difficult when you're when you're wearing all those hats.
It's true. It's a
Very
lot going.
interesting. I like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, things slip by the wayside. You know, no matter what level you are, things do slip, and there is some sort of benefit to bringing in an outside party. Like it really
Yeah.
is. Like whether it's someone that's an expert in your field or whether it's someone that's just an expert in one part of your field, right? So like a sales funnel or a graphics or a website design, whatever it may be, the reason your business might be struggling is because your website sucks. Maybe your contact form doesn't work on your website and you're not getting the emails, right? Like it could be so many little things to where you may have no idea as to why you're not converting. You may not have any idea as to why no one's eating at your restaurant, right? Maybe your food sucks and you hire Gordon Ramsay and he comes in there and he spends one night, he's like, this is garbage. That's why no one's coming back. It's because your food is garbage. And some people just need to hear that. And then others don't want to hear that. They'll be like, oh no, Gordon Ramsay's stupid. What's he saying? My food's garbage. My mom loves my food, right? It's like some people won't
Hmm.
take that feedback no matter what it is, but then others will take it and they'll run with it immediately. And that's this true sign of a good business owner or
Yeah.
of a real entrepreneur is someone that could take feedback and adapt on the fly and be ever changing. Because again, business is always evolving. I don't care what you think about that, how steady your business is, it's going to change in the next 5 years. We see it in reselling. Trends go up and down. Some like beanie babies were cool for several years, 20 years ago. Now you can't even give beanie babies away, right? It's trends, it's market volatility, it's all these things, but people just want to be blind to it for some reason.
Hey,
So,
let's sum this up by saying it's okay to hire help. That by hiring
yep,
help is not an expense, it's an investment.
nope,
It's an
exactly.
investment in your business, it's an investment in your time, in
Yep,
your peace of mind and your success.
that's
If
it.
and it's not a guarantee that it will work, but it's worth the risk. It's worth the endeavor to hire help.
Yep. Start slow, hire freelancers. And again, if you guys find this podcast interesting, make sure you share it. Smash a little rating button. If you thought it was a 1 star, smash 1 star. Don't care. If you thought it was 5 star, smash 5 star. It'd be super helpful if you guys did share it with your friends and family because, again, this is something that we're trying to grow. We do this for free because we love it every single week. And since it is episode 25, let's make it a special one.
All
But
right.
we'll see you, dude.
Yeah, we'll see everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Adios.